Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I didn't really want to do a video per se, but I figured that it's probably better for my mental health. And maybe, just maybe, it'll reach some people and make them think a bit. So, um, obviously what's been going on in my mind, what's been going on in the minds of everyone, is the war in Ukraine. And people really try to simplify it when in reality, there's a lot of different sides. So people kind of try to think that, okay, there's Russia and there's Ukraine, and that's pretty much it. And there's a lot of really good channels which say, well, why are you forgetting about Donbass, about Lugansk and Donetsk? And that is something I do agree with, because we need to take all of the context in mind. Now, before I start anything, I just want to say that I'm properly against war, and I do not, even if my personal opinion is one side or the other side, or I may be leaning towards another side, I per se think that I do not want war, and I'm against war completely. Now, this is where things get tricky, because people tend to think, oh, I'm gonna side with A or I'm gonna side with B. They think that that is the only correct choice. And I had a discussion with my partner as well, that this happens because people are used to seeing things from their perspective. So obviously, you're gonna be looking from the perspective you're similar with and the perspective you understand. So for instance, my partner's Brazilian. A Brazilian will obviously be thinking, okay, everything's far away. I'm gonna look at it from a general context. Obviously, people of Europe, people of the US will take a pro-NATO stance. Well, the NATO stance is not to interfere factually, but you know. So I just wanted to talk about the sides which actually exist. So we'll start from the plain one and we'll go with pros and cons so that you can choose your player. I'm kidding, this is a very serious situation. I have no makeup. I legit just dusted my face with a dry brush just so that you wouldn't see the excess oil, and my hair needs a wash, and I'm very, very exhausted and I'm very tired. Not to mention that people are going at me and I'm really pissed. Anyway, so going back to the Ukraine situation, we have the situation of the people who, well, there's a bunch of different people who support Ukraine, and I guess we should go more into depth of who they are. So, with the first, we have the people of Ukraine who are factually in Ukraine and who factually just love the governments and they support the army. They might be in the army themselves, they might be in the nationalist army, in the right wing, they might be in Pravy Sektor, they might be. So you kind of have this very, very broad spectrum of people who root for the Ukrainian army, varying from regular folk who just don't know better and who feel that indeed Putin invaded Ukraine. That's a fact. That is something he has blood on his hands for. And also, I have talked about this previously, maybe ages ago, but this is my stance, and I've always held it, is that the fact that Putin didn't take Lugansk and Donetsk back in the day, before the war started, is blood on his hands. Again, this is my personal opinion, because I do not want war. Again, I do not know how to emphasize this. So you have the regular folk. So when it comes to the regular folk, it can be just people who regularly live in Ukraine. It can be people who watch the television. Russian television has been banned there for ages. Russian language is banned there. And they just thought that, well, I'm just gonna support my nation. Whether it's from a good view or from a malice, there's also leftovers from not trusting the Soviet Union, not trusting Russia. So there is obviously folk there that understands not so much, or understands more, but they still want to root for their country. They don't want to get invaded. And a very easy explanation is that rooting for Ukraine means rooting against the war in Ukraine. But rooting against the war in Ukraine factually should be that you're rooting against the war in Donbass, against the current situation as well. So obviously I mentioned there's radicals in the Ukrainian army. Don't worry, there's radicals everywhere. Before you come for me. So when it comes to the radicals in the Ukrainian army, we're talking about Pravy Sektor, we're talking about Azov and other things. People say that they're very small. They're larger than people think they are. And there are very good documentaries on YouTube where people discuss the armies of Azov and Pravy Sektor, why they hate each other, what's the difference, what training they do, and etc. And people who are on the Ukrainian side tend to disagree that they are big or they diminish their opinions. But the fact is, for instance, in I believe it's Mariupol, there is a factory where they're using people as human shields. This is also reported in Western media. Because they're just not liked by anyone at this point, besides obviously ultranationalists. So what they did is they called regular folk to hide in the factory, saying that it's a safe place for anyone to hide from the explosions. And now they're covering, they're fighters with regular folk. So you have those. But I also want to emphasize that regular folk just really don't know what's better. And the same goes for the Russian side. Like, there's people who think, okay, like, who have seen the other side, who have seen for 80 years Donetsk and Lugansk get shot. So obviously they're like, well, shit, we need to stop this, what's happening in Donbass. And they may be like, there's not many of them. They'd be like, yes, absolutely, we need to go to war, we need to defend Donetsk, Lugansk, and everything that Putin says. But those are very little, in fact, because then on the Russian side you have, well, I don't know if they're even there on the Russian side, like, which are just against war. So they're not pro-Ukraine, they're not pro-Russia, they're just pro-against war. And I really feel like when people think that they're saying we're against war, they side with the Ukrainian army, when in reality shouldn't be siding with any side in this conflict. And I'm not talking this from a commie perspective, although the commie perspective is but I just wanted to say that it's very important to understand there's many sides. And obviously there's the EU, which is not getting involved yet, having manifestations. I got invited to quite a few manifestations. I turned all of them down because I do not feel comfortable when the message of no war is linked to supporting the Ukrainian army. Another thing I wanted to raise awareness is a lot of people ask me, how can we help the people of Ukraine? Spread awareness. Spread proper awareness. Spread that there shouldn't be a war in the first place. This attack from Putin, which was made on the 24th of February and has been lasting for God knows how many days at this point, because I am not getting sleep, shouldn't have happened at all. There were other ways to do it. This should have been done ages ago. This is from my Russian perspective, if you must. Right now, what's happening is inhumane from both sides. It shouldn't have happened. Nobody should be defending. There shouldn't be a war in the first place. Neither there should be a war in Donbass. But right now, we're putting in danger all of the country instead of just 2 regions. Yes, is it inhumane that the 2 regions suffered for 8 years? Absolutely. And people should be taken for their actions. So in this case, we have 2 sides which pretty much committed their own crimes. Just it happens so that on one is trending to say, yeah, absolutely dipshit, I agree. And on the other side, it's we can't say that because they're the ones being under attack. So I just wanted to clear the situation a bit. Also, I really didn't want to do a video, but I figured that it might help me clear my mind, because I've obviously been having a couple of rough days, and in general, like, my psychological state hasn't been too stable, obviously. So once again, I really hope that also when it comes to charities, please do not donate to anything, because everything that is getting donated is going nowhere. There's no way to donate properly. When the war ends, that's when you can help people get shelter, food, homes, dog shelters, anything under that light. The Red Cross, UNICEF, anything. Refugees. Yes, you can actually help refugees, for instance. Like the refugees which arrived in Poland. Yes. But I don't know right now from the top of my head the charity list for refugees right now. So you can help any refugees which arrive into your country, speak to your governments, do manifestations that refugees should be taken in. And in general, I really hope there's going to be soon some movements which will allow people to leave Ukraine properly. Because right now we're only talking about people running to the border of Poland and getting out of there. And at the same time, like for instance from Kiev, we've seen a lot of shots where people just get guns and a bunch of men just board the trains and don't let women and children in. And they just ride to Lvov or then manage to cross the Polish border. So I really wanted to say that it's very important to do things like that rather than just putting a little Ukrainian flag in a profile. Honestly, whenever I see a small little Ukrainian flag on a profile, I'm just like, are you a Nazi or are you not? Even though I understand the sentiment. But because I've seen enough over these 80 years of people who are actually Nazi sympathizers put that flag on, it doesn't provoke the best thoughts in me. So I would say, like on my Instagram, I just put a user pic which says no to war. Simple, effective. At this point, I'd even buy myself a hippie peace shirt, you know? Because I feel like that conveys something much more than a Ukrainian flag. That's pretty much what you can do. That's pretty much what's been going on. So I really recommend you to do your own research, because a lot of people don't like certain sources, other sources, and try to understand that this is a situation where literally war should be avoided. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It doesn't matter how pro-Russia, pro-Ukraine you fucking are. Like, I'm very pro-communist and everything. We should all really unite and say that war shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be fighting over who's right, who's wrong. War should just end. And then, once the war ends, we can start a political discussion over tea, coffee, whatever. Until then, nope. We need to stop this war. And help the refugees and help people get out of the country. Because we don't know if the conversations between the Ukrainian delegation and the Russian delegations will even bring anything, which is happening or continuing to happen tomorrow in Belarus. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. If you like my channel, please give a thumbs up. I'd rather if you subscribed. I have other topics as well. I just feel like this had to be addressed. And I really hope that next week I won't be touching the subject. And I also felt like if I go talking about a subject like something else, or like celebrities putting filters on their faces or something, it won't benefit anyone. We all want to know what's happening in Ukraine. I don't know if I'll be reporting what I think. I kind of reported it today and I really don't want to do it more. I already tell it to my friends and etc. So thank you very much for watching. Again, please understand that the stance is no war. Then whatever political agenda you have, just keep it to yourself. The main thing is to end the war. Thank you very much.